Hello and welcome to the Roundtown Recharge podcast, where we help business owners smash obstacles in real estate and their personal lives and scale your business. So today we are going to talk about getting your first deal. This is going to be some really, really powerful content for a lot of people, mainly because there is just too much information out there. There's tons of YouTube videos to watch. There's tons, which is not a bad thing, but there is so much information out there that it's difficult to decipher. So one of the really good things about being in a mastermind group or just having a mentor is you get really concise information. You don't have to filter through the abundance of information that we have today. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just trying to say that it's difficult. It's another struggle that we have. Too much information. It's information overload. So today, I'm going to give you a taste of what clear, concise information looks like. So when I'm going through some of this information, remember there are other ways to do this. There are other methods to find deals. There are other methods to take deals down. But I'm going to tell you one way, and it's not the best way. It's not the worst way, but it is a way and a fairly easy way that you can get started today, whether you have a little bit of money, a lot of money, or a sizable amount, and whether you have little time, some time, or a lot of time. And that's the goal of today's podcast, is to make sure you understand how to find deals and take them down wherever you're at. And if you watch or listen to this podcast all the way to the end and you still don't understand it, I would recommend just re-listening because these concepts aren't hard, but the key here is consistency. The key is not giving up. The key is doing this and sticking to it. This is a proven, tried and true method. It's not going to be a get rich quick. It's not going to be you turn the switch on and just things automatically happen without putting any of the work in. So remember, this is a business. This requires effort and this requires consistency. So if you can manage that, these concepts are simple, but nobody is saying that they're easy. Whenever you talk to people all the time, all day, finding new leads, new sellers, these conversations are tough. They can wear on you. So remember, this is not an easy thing, but it is a very simple thing. All right. So enough of that. I'm going to go ahead and just get right into it. So I'm going to throw an honorable mention out to finding your next deal on the MLS or Zillow or Realtor or any online website that's just, it's listed for sale or for sale by owner. Someone has their hands up saying, hey, I want to sell. They're waving their hands. I want to sell. These are great people to call. Just remember that when you're calling them, you are probably going to have a lot of competition. Not a bad thing. Again, I'm just saying that this is a great place to start for someone if you don't want to go do the rest of this work I'm about to talk about. But you are going to likely experience a lot of competition. But the nice thing is you are talking to someone who for sure wants to sell their house. They have it listed. So I would target ones that have been listed for a long period of time and haven't sold yet, because likely they're more motivated and maybe they just need to come down in price a little bit. Speculating, there could be a million different things, but that's a great place to start. Honorable mention. But really what I want to get into is the meat and potatoes of this. And that's what to do if you have a little bit of money, some money, or a lot of money. And if you have a little bit of time, some time, or a lot of time. How can you go about finding your first deal, legitimate first deal? So the first step in anything here is you have to build a list. You have to have some lead flow, some deal flow. So you have to build a list of properties that you want to market to. Remember, we're marketing to off-market deals. Okay, so we've already mentioned Zillow and MLS, so that's off now. Now we are looking for off-market deals, not listed with a realtor, not for sale by owner. We are digging for these deals. Okay, so to build a list of these properties, you want to find a motivating factor. All right, so typically a motivating factor is going to be someone that has it. Let me give you a couple of examples. So we call it the 4Ds. So it could be death, divorce, distance, or damage to the property. Those are very big motivating factors. All four of those are very big motivating factors. There's obviously others, but those are the main ones that we look for. So we try to build a list of properties that potentially have sellers with those motivating factors. We are trying to solve problems for people. We are trying to solve problem properties. So if somebody got a divorce, what do you do with the property? That's a problem. If the property's damaged, that's a problem. There's a chance that it would be a problem if they moved away from it and they weren't around to take care of it. They didn't want to pay the taxes on it. They no longer live there. That's a problem. If there was a death in the family and it went into probate, that's a problem. They need to sell it. So we are just trying to solve problem properties, trying to solve people's problems. Tired landlords, headaches, etc. So a really good way to find these properties is to build a list. And you can do this with no money by just driving around your neighborhood and looking for properties that don't put their trash can out on trash day. Because guess what? No one's living there. It's probably a vacant property. Maybe whenever it's the holidays and there are no holiday decorations up. Christmas time, Christmas lights, no Christmas lights, 4th of July, no flags, American stuff. If it's a holiday, you want to look and see if they're decorating their house. If they aren't, and there's no signs of life, the grass is getting a little long, that's likely a vacant property. Even if there's nothing wrong with it, that's a really good motivating factor. The property is sitting vacant. It's not being used for anything. That's a highly motivating factor. That there's a distance motivator right there. Okay. Or possibly some others as well. So start writing these addresses down. Write down all the addresses you find that look vacant. And then when you get home, so once you get a list of like 100 properties, when you get home, go look up the owner on the county website, and you can spend a little bit of money here, and you can skip trace the property addresses and find the owner's name and phone number and all that. But we'll get there in a second. But I'm talking if you have very, very little money to spend. So we've spent no money so far. Yeah, there's gas to drive around, but you can ride a bike. Yeah, that's not going to cost you any money. So you've built your list for free, and it's probably a really good list because it's organic and no one else has this list. It's a custom list. So that's really good. You've also looked up all the owner's information on the county website for no money because that's totally free. And then the only thing left that you have to do is market to these properties. So if you don't have any money at all, I would at this point just find someone like me or another investor in your market that just wants leads, and you can be a bird dog for them, and they can give you some kind. They can figure out a way to compensate you most likely for finding you these leads. Maybe they can hire you on and pay you some marketing 1099 money or something. But who knows? Like, obviously, they need to talk to their CPA about that. I'm not giving advice on that, but my point is, that if you don't have any money to spend at all, that's pretty much where you stop. But if you have some money, like very, very little bit of money, like enough to pay for a cell phone and enough to buy some paper and write some things, then we can move on. So what you can do, you can write on a all weatherproof sticky note and put something on the door. You could write out yellow letters and mail it to the owner and say, hey, I want to buy your house. And obviously put your phone number on that so they can call you. You can, again, I talked about skip tracing. So you can skip trace these addresses and ideally the owner's names, and you can find the phone numbers. And if you have the phone number, you can cold call them. And that's a really, really good way to talk to people and get people on the phone and start making offers on deals. But you can do all of that with very, very, very little money invested. There's going to be some time involved for sure, but there's very, very little money invested into doing what I just said there. And you can find one deal that way over the next few months, then it will pay for all this other marketing I'm about to talk about. So think about it like that. You're growing a business, okay? So let's assume you do have some money and maybe you want to spend a little bit less time doing everything we just talked about. So instead of driving around, driving for dollars, you can pull these lists. So you can look up vacant, absentee owner, high equity. These are that list right there is a really good list. Vacant, absentee, high equity. That's a really good list to pull. Okay, start there. And this is what I was talking about, where there's a million different ways to do this. I'm telling you one way, just go run with it. All right. I know that list works. I don't care what market you're in. That list will work. Okay. Just pull it from a reliable source. So there's tons of different ones that we use. Most commonly, we use PropStream and Batch Leads. Those are two really common sources, and a lot of investors use those sources. Those are really good sources for pulling these lists as well as skip tracing. So I think if you have a little bit of money, that's a really good place to start. All right. And then once you've, we talked about, so you pull the list of motivated sellers, right? And you're going to skip trace the list to find the phone numbers, and then you're going to call them. Then what else you can do is you can text them. And you can do this all from your personal phone number in the beginning if you're not doing high volume, but eventually you're probably going to want to start spending a little bit more money. And you're going to, if you're starting to do volume, you're going to want to start tracking in something other than Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. So moving to the last category of having a sizable amount of money, and maybe you want to spend a little less time on this, what I would say is get a CRM. This is a software used to manage all your contacts. And then you can do everything we just talked about, but just start scaling it up. So you can spend more money on lists. You can, instead of doing all the calls yourself, you can get a separate business phone number. Maybe you get a dialing platform. Batch has a caller, a dialer it's really, really good. Batch dialer is really, really good. There's Mojo Dialer is a really common one. I have a lot of friends and investors that use that one. So yeah, get a dialer, and you can also get a text platform. And some CRMs have this already in their platform. But again, all of these things are things you can do with more money, right? And ideally some more experience, because there's no need to do all these things off the rip because you don't want to overwhelm yourself. But these are ways that you can grow and scale. The last way, and I talked about writing yellow letters and sending them out earlier. You could send postcards, yellow letters, whatever you want to send. But the last way I was going to mention was direct mail, and you can really scale in direct mail, and it's most effective when you send a lot, because response rates are typically pretty low with direct mail. But whenever you send a lot, even a little response rate can lead to some massive rewards in the future. So that's another great way to scale. It's very passive too. You send the mail out and then you just wait for someone to call you. So it's a fairly passive. A motivated seller is going to call you. Anyone else that isn't motivated, they're just going to throw it away. You don't have to deal with talking to people that aren't motivated, which is nice. It does the weeding out for you. So that's how you find these deals. So like that's really the meat and potatoes of what you need to understand. Now, what do you do when you get someone on the phone? Once you finally have somebody on the phone, you need to qualify them. You need to make sure that they do meet your criteria. So first, obviously, make sure they are the owner. Okay, that's important. And then obviously make sure they do want to sell, and make sure they want to sell within a short period of time, not in the next 2 years. Okay, so make sure they are willing to sell and fairly soon. And then you want to try to identify what that motivating factor is. So whether there was a death in the family, a divorce, they moved away from the property, or maybe the property's damaged and needs a lot of work, the 4Ds, it's important to identify that motivation. To kind of go along with that last one, damage, you want to make sure the condition and the price align. You want to make sure you're not paying full market value for a property that's a shithole. You want to make sure that you're getting a good enough deal. Ideally, we want to be all in purchase, rehab, and assignment fee, or if you're just taking it down yourself, just purchase and rehab for under 70% of the after repair value, or what it would be worth fully fixed up, sold on the MLS, open market. So how do you calculate that ARV? That I'm not going to go into the details of it. You're just running comps. You need at least, we always try to pull at least 5 comps. You're just running comps of similar properties. So there's tons of videos online on how to run comps. I'm not going to go over that in detail, but you got to run comps to figure out what your ARV is. And you want to try to be all in under 70% of that. Ideally less, but that's more of a max target that we go for. But once you're there, once you've confirmed that they are a qualified lead, and that they are motivated, they do have a short timeline, they do have a property that the price and condition match up, and they are in your ballpark, then make them an offer and write up a contract. If you're in my mastermind group, you have my contract. You have what we use every single day. If you're not, there's tons of contracts online. You can use a standard, the state, board of realtors, I think, usually has an agreement you can use online. You can find, have a local attorney draft one for you if you really want one custom made. A good contract is important, but you can get one of those pretty easily. But anyways, so once you get the property under contract, then that's where the fun begins. That's where you can decide what your exit strategy is, what you're going to do to take this down. So you can take it down yourself if you want. And we can talk in another podcast about different ways to finance deals and owner financing and all that. But if you have the cash, or someone that has the cash, you can partner on the deal and you can take it down yourself. Or if we're talking about getting your first deal, typically it's a good idea to start building capital. A really good way to do that is to wholesale it. So if the deal doesn't, work for you to take it down yourself, but it is a good deal, you can decide, hey, I'm going to wholesale this deal to somebody else, another investor. And what that looks like is you are just selling the contract. You are just selling that piece of paper that you have an agreement with the seller. You're selling your rights. You're selling your ability to buy this house to somebody else for a fee. So you can charge whatever you want. It just has to make sense for the person buying it. So, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it has to be 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever. It depends what you got the deal for. So if you got the deal at a really deep discount and the investor can be all in for 70% of ARV and you're making a $25,000 assignment fee, nothing wrong with that. But you're not going to make your investor pay a lot of money if it's not going to end up being a good deal for them. As a matter of fact, they probably just won't buy it. So you have to price accordingly. But with that said, this is the beauty of it. How much can you negotiate with the seller? That's where you can really shine. And if you can get good deals, you can make a lot of money just selling the contracts off to other investors. But eventually, you're going to want to ideally take a lot of these down yourself. So if you can raise the money or finance the deal through a local bank, or if you can get owner financing, or maybe you house hack and live in one side of a duplex and rent the other side out, whatever you decide to do, you can typically take these deals down yourself. And that's how you're really going to build wealth over time. But we're past our 20 minutes. And I think if you really sit back and listen to that podcast again, you can go from not knowing a thing about how to find your first deal and having all the tools and resources you need, because they're all at your fingertips. You can do all this with very, very little money and very little time. Just need to get started. You need to prioritize doing it. Again, like I said, consistency is key. You can't drive around one time, find a list of 5 properties and call. As a matter of fact, you can find a deal that way, but it's unlikely. You need to consistently do this. And if you do this consistently, you will eventually, and probably pretty soon, as long as you commit to this, find a deal and start making real money in real estate. So thank you again. And I hope this helps. Bye for now.